To create an effect similar to a block print or a woodcut, we'll look at a variation of a technique we've seen before. I'd like to also demonstrate a third-party filter, Andromeda's cutline filter, because it can produce superb block print relief effects. I like to use this technique on images with strong edge definition. So for instance, a fuzzy picture of a meadow with flowers may not be completely appropriate to reproduce this effect. As always, to begin, duplicate the background layer and convert it to a monochrome. I'll apply the Channel Mixer command directly to this layer and choose the red channel to influence the monochrome. Next, I'll apply the high pass filter to give the monochrome an appearance of relief. The high pass filter, when used at lower values, emphasizes the highlights and sets the rest of the tones towards gray. Higher values, lower values. Next, I'll add a threshold adjustment layer to reduce the colors to black and white. Experiment with the threshold slider till you get the level of detail that you're after. To blend it with the contents of the layer below, first merge down, and then experiment with the blend modes. Overlay gives you bright, punchy colors. Color burn is my favorite here because it seems to overlay the block print effect in the best way. You can also reduce the opacity of this layer to make it blend more seamlessly. And here we have an easy block print effect. Let's take a look now at how the Andromeda cutline filter works its magic on images. At one level, you can use this filter to render your images with exquisitely hatched textures, and others use it to convert grayscale and line art into engravings. We'll take a look at both these techniques in this chapter. First, I'll duplicate the background layer and apply the cutline filter to the layer copy. Choose Filter, Andromeda Cutline. And you'll find that its interface is similar to other Andromeda filters you might have seen, especially the Screens filter, which we just explored in another exercise in this chapter. You have the before and after image previews, the fine to coarse quality slider, and the more or less thumbnails that let you quantitatively change the results. Up at the top, you select the tonal range to be affected. You can have the etched effect be applied to a specific tonal range, such as the shadows, which is common, or even to the whole image. Next, set the LPI, or the line screen ruling. This determines how fine or coarse the texturing will be overall. You can zoom to set the viewing ratio. I've set it to 1:1. An LPI of 25 gives you a fine mesh appearance. The lower the LPI, the coarser the screen pattern is, as is to be expected. I'll set it to be a little tighter for this exercise. Next, you get to select the actual patterning algorithm. Cut lines give you straight lines. To add a slight wave, choose Wavy Cut Lines. From here, you have more options if you choose either of the next two. When one of them is chosen, such as the elliptical cut lines, you have access to options that let you set the curvature and angles of the etched effect. In order to do that, you have to establish the origin of the etched lines first, and you do that with the Stamper tool in the central portion of the dialog. Move it to the After preview and click to lay down the originating point. Each time you click, you update the location of the lines that originate from it. Once established, you can affect the overall curvature and angle by moving the sliders. To relocate the viewing box, click the box tool and set up a new view. And this in turn reflects in the more or less thumbnails. Once you have the etching looking like you want it, you can fine-tune it using the more or less thumbnails. And as always, Andromeda delivers exceptional quality, and we end up with a beautifully textured and etched image. You can use it as is, or as every Photoshopper is apt to do, mess with it some more. To apply the etching to the shadows only, open Layer Options and remove highlights from this layer. And add the highlight detail from the underlying layer. Split it apart to make the transition a little more seamless. This is before and after our little refinement. And here's our etching courtesy of Andromeda's Cut Line Filter.